This video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all.
Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and Bitcoin is finally doing Bitcoin things again, right? Bitcoin is finally staging another lockout rally. It's finally entering what should be, in theory, the banana zone. So there's nothing really to do today apart from bull post a lot. We're going to briefly talk about a bunch of different things, keep a situational and contextual awareness for where we are in the 4-year cycle, what we can expect over the rest of the year. We'll check in on some TA and live trades as always. And then I got a little treat for anyone that wants to stay till the end. So before we get into today, Slice have offered me and you guys a 50% discount for a limited time only for anyone wanting to join the Slice crew. They're continuously updating the platform. We now have live stream integration, and I'm going to be going live exclusively for the Slice crew today at 1 PM UK time. So if anyone's interested, feel free to use the 50% discount code Camel50. And they have also integrated a Discord type chat room where people can be talking about gold and silver stocks or whatever they want to talk about. There's all kinds of platinum, and all of this is built into the Slice platform now as well. So they continue to add more and more features. The platform continues to get better and better. There's a link in the pinned comment and description if you want to use that, and Camel50, you'll get 50% discount off all of the exclusive content that is posted to Slice. Over in the world of Bitcoin, Bitcoin is doing Bitcoin things once more, right? I mean, for a long time, we've been talking about how something like this should probably be in play, right? Assuming the 4-year cycle is not going to completely break, assuming the 4-year cycle is going to play out roughly speaking according to expectations or similarly to prior cycles, then this should be the extended fifth. We should have already done 1 into 2. This should be 3, 4, and 5 into the fifth of the fifth. You can see right here, right, this little GIF summarizes people's expectations, right? People have not been a believer in something like this, despite it being kind of in the charts the whole time. Now, nobody ever knows how high this thing can go. Maybe these targets will prove to be over exuberant. But as it stands, I don't think anybody should be discounting this. And if you've been here for any length of time at all, you have heard me say, I don't think anyone should be discounting this type of big blow-off finale move day in, day out for a very long time now. There's lots of different ways to interpret this chart, but notice how most of them point to the same thing, right? They all kind of point to 1, 2, this should be 3, 4, and 5. That 4 should occur at a weekly cycle low time frame. My expectation, based on my weekly cycle low and double chart, is that that 4 will complete into the next weekly cycle low. For anyone unfamiliar with the weekly cycle low and double chart, here it is. Okay, we get these consistent weekly cycles that are equidistant, as you can see by these timing arcs below. I believe that we are well on our way now to completing the top of this weekly cycle, a pull back into the next weekly cycle, and then the question remains, have we got another pop? If all of this turns out to be the 3, then we should get the 4 into the weekly cycle and one final blow off top fifth. So I've been saying the same things over and over again. It seems like it's finally party time. To put it in perspective, I believe we are entering the banana zone here, as Raoul Paul calls it. I believe we've done this chop synonymous with all prior cycles. Like I said, 1 into 2, this should be 3, 4 weekly cycle into the blow off fifth, just like we've seen in all prior extended fifth blow off tops for Bitcoin. As fun as this is for me at least the hardest part of the cycle. I know a lot of people like to sit around and pretend like they can call the top perfectly and all this kind of thing. I see a lot of people say tops are easier to call than bottoms. I do not believe that in the slightest. I think finding the top is much harder because euphoria and greed and FOMO are much harder to deal with, in my opinion, than panic, fear, and capitulation. I think it's much easier to buy something and say, wow, that's probably close enough to the bottom, to call it the bottom, especially using cycle lows for timing, than it is to say, well, that's probably the top. There's always narrative shifts. There's always greed and euphoria, complacency that occur at the top. And a lot of people are not very good, if we're honest, at managing their own expectations. A lot of people are never going to sell simply because, well, what if it keeps going higher? For some reason, most people would like to hodl this thing back down 80% more than they would like to sell and watch it keep going slightly higher. So yes, this is the fun part in theory, if this is for real, and I believe it is. If we really are going to enter this huge parabolic expansion now, then this is where all of the gains for the entire cycle are made, frankly. But at the same time, this is also the area where most people F this thing up. You will be surprised at how many people do really well at getting a position lower down, only to do something completely silly and stupid at the top and end up wasting the entire 3-year cycle. So as much as this is fun, as much as the memes and stuff are going to proliferate, as much as people are going to want to sit back and say, I told you so over all sorts of things, just remember that really the banana zone, I think, should be called the danger zone, okay? Because this is where you have the most potential not just you, me as well, all of us have the most potential to ruin our entire cycle here. So as much as we're going to have fun, as much as we're going to enjoy this, okay, this is the area for me that is the hardest to deal with. This is the area for me that I know has the most potential to cause me and my portfolio harm. And so for the first time in this whole cycle since the lows, I'm really going to be treating this more like a business than ever before. This is absolutely the danger zone, not just the banana zone. So please make sure you understand that, because far too many people will do very silly things in here. And there's a reason only a handful of people actually can do extremely well out of trading, right? There's a reason most people F this thing up, and it's because they allow their emotions and greed and euphoria to get in the way of making smart decisions in this neighborhood. A lot of people are probably still thinking this whole idea of massive numbers is silly, but structurally it's incredibly similar to what gold did in 1970 to 1980. So it's absolutely not silly. It's just the human mind is not good at comprehending a move like this. I did think it's pretty interesting, having seen the breakout now, having been absolutely confirmed that this breakout is for real. This is another example of how this indicator knew something that I didn't see coming, right? This indicator chose to unconfirm this low and go hunting an inversion. We were talking extensively with the members about this and how I was saying, I don't really like what it's doing, but I think it's hunting an inversion and blah, blah, blah. It then picked a low, and I was still operating with the assumption, because I doubted this thing, that this is probably going to be another fake out failed cycle. However, notice how once again, it knew what it was doing. It knew better than I did. And that's what I keep making these jokes about. I think it's becoming sentient, right? It knew to unconfirm this low, hunt the actual low. And since then, okay, we are trading significantly higher. Bitcoin is clearly now at new all-time highs. And so the question becomes, what do we do with this situation? And the answer is, I'm going with the indicators count here. Now, there's two ways to look at this. You could either take it from the prior low and measure to this low, which is confirmed, and call it a day 76 low. That's massively late. That's probably the latest Bitcoin cycle low I've ever seen. I think the prior record was 72 days. Or you can say that this low was for real and we just inverted day 17. Now, I don't really like that idea, to be honest. I think I'm going to run with the day 76 count. But in either case, you get the same result, okay? We start from here. This is where we reset the count from, and thus our next expected cycle low window is due sometime around the 21st of August. I actually think this will probably end up being a violent, sharp correction into this that will also force a weekly cycle low. I have a funny feeling we'll do that. And the reason I say that is because this weekly cycle took longer than expected, which makes me think we may well take less time than expected to get to the next weekly cycle low and thus reset the overall average to bring it back in line with the standard cycle length. But once again, I'm incredibly proud of what we have built here, and it's also absolutely crushing Ethereum, as you can see here. Ethereum is due like a quick, sharp pullback to give us a cycle low and go, and you can see it working here in real time on the XRP price chart, okay? It's not even optimized for this asset, but take a look at how well it nails this low in real time. Needless to say, this is now trading up towards all-time highs again. So happy days there. We really have built something super special. I also found this. I still don't know how I feel about this. I see some people get kind of mad at me for that. I don't really know why, right? If you want to accept this as gospel, just do it. I don't have to do that just because you think it's gospel. But so far, if we are going to catch this thing up, if I'm wrong about this and this thing is actually, you know, almost extremely one-to-one correlated, then we should catch this thing up. And that gap is about 20% higher, which implies just to get back here, we should be at 130k in no time, which I think, I haven't seen the chart yet, but I think is probably like 10% from where we are, which obviously we can do in 1 or 2 daily candles, no problem. Notice that all three of these are breaking out. This is total 2, this is total 3, and this is others, okay? All three of these are working on a breakout now, as you can see right here. So super interesting times. This is total 2, here's total 3, and here is others, all three working on a breakout. So I've got a couple of questions about this, right? The first question is this breakout going to be legit? Or is it going to morph into this breakout that we had from here on the 10-year yield? Where we got the breakout, we chopped, and then ultimately it made a lower high and continued to bleed, and it's ultimately going to resolve to much lower numbers. That's the first question I have. The second question I have, right, is does the breadth stay thin here? Is it just a handful of alts that carry these indexes to new highs? Is it a repeat of what we've seen with the Mag 7, where you get a handful of stocks concentrating the entire index, and that is what is responsible for the indexes moving higher? Or is breadth going to widen out? Are we going to get a true broad-based alt season? Are we going to totally invalidate my cool Time will tell. It's certainly too early to go making any conclusions. Like anything, we don't just see 1 or 2 daily candles break out and say, that's it, okay, totally invalidated. We'll keep tracking this thing. I've not been a proponent of broad-based alt season, though I've been cheering it on for everyone else's sake. It'll be really interesting when we get to the end of this cycle to see how many have actually outperformed Bitcoin. But so far, it's looking encouraging for the alts, right? It's looking encouraging, at least for the alt indices. Now, I don't know how wide the breadth is. I'm not going to bother checking until later in the cycle. And so long as these breakouts can persist, then I think if you're in alts, happy days, right? But certainly be on guard here for any kind of rollover, because if this thing is to roll over, then I would suggest on a balanced probabilities, that's your final opportunity to get out of the way of these things. With all that said, 10-year yields still moving, roughly speaking, in the right direction. Obviously, this is a slow moving market. Haven't checked on the Dixie in a while. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know yet, right? To be completely honest, we'll give this a bit more space before we go worrying about that. Gold still holding above its cycle low, looks a little lackluster, but I noticed silver breaking out, okay? So that's great. We've got plenty of exposure to that in the longer term accounts, and we've got plenty of gold and silver miners in the longer term accounts. We've got 2 SILJ positions that we're working on. Get a push above here, and then I think we can move the stops up in the members section for that. Crypto stocks continue to fly. MicroStrategy, right? Oh my goodness. Is this actually going to move to new highs? I didn't think it was likely, to be honest, but we have been positioned for it either way, right? We ducked out at the top, we got back in after this 50% decline from top to bottom in both the longer term accounts and from this trading position. So I'm cheering this thing on to new highs. I really think that would also speak to not only a bunch more profits for the members, but I think it would speak to Bitcoin actually having a shot at moving significantly higher than where it has been already. I know things like Riot and Coinbase as well, they're all setting up, right? We've got plenty of these positions in the member section. They're all looking fantastic. I'll save all of that for the members video on Saturday. The S&P 500 still kind of moving up. I think we've got to be getting close to a top for this daily cycle. I think we have to. We're on, today will be day 32. I think we probably got to start a decline into a daily cycle low in the not too distant future. Probably something like this, right? And then we'll go from there. It'd be really interesting to know if that is the bottom in the VIX. I was talking about this last week. I was tweeting to say this week would probably be a nice time to get a VIX long on. Now, VIX Crush Friday is a thing, right? 80% in my experience, that's a made up statistic, but in my experience, approximately about 80% of Fridays result in the VIX getting crushed. So if it gets crushed here, obviously this will not confirm the indicator. It will cancel this signal. So we need to wait for a daily close to make sure this thing is valid. But if it can close something like this, I can see myself putting on a VIX trade and trying to catch that short-term pop that I've been talking about for a while. And that would only make sense because the VIX usually starts to lead before the S&P 500 tops and heads for a daily cycle low. I'm not expecting any violent correction here, but I think it'll be quite nice to catch maybe a 2 to 3 day pop in the VIX if I can manage it. What else? Russell 2K doing great at the semiconductors position, almost at fresh all-time highs, so that's wicked. All that dip buying we did during the spill continues to pay off. And then last but not least, right, Bitcoin, clearly a massive breakout here. Probably, I would suggest, wants to lock a bunch of people out here, slingshot to a much higher number, have that correction into the weekly cycle low that I was talking about, and then enter the true banana zone. ETH is trading above 3K, so I like the look of that too. I still don't think this thing is going to end up outperforming Bitcoin for this cycle, simply because even back to the prior all-time high is 446%, whatever you want to call it, from the lows. Okay, majorly underperforming Bitcoin's 650 odd percent. If Bitcoin is going to hit the type of numbers I think, then it's going to be on for somewhere between a 10 and a 20x from this cycle. And for Ethereum to even do a 10x, it's going to need to hit about 10k. Now, is that really reasonable? I don't think so personally. And even if it does, Bitcoin at 150k, you would have been able to outperform it or equal the performance without taking anywhere near as much risk and without having to sit through all of this wasted opportunity. So I still don't think this is going to be one of the big boys of this bull run. And Bitcoin at 300k, obviously this thing would need to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 20k. Is Ethereum worth 20k with the amount of supply it's got, with all the problems, the issuance schedule? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Anything is possible. But because of the supply dynamics, it's way easier for Bitcoin to hit 300k than it is for Ethereum to hit 10 or 20k. But time will tell, right? Time will tell. If you bought this low and you're up 120% since that low, then I would suspect you're probably outperforming Bitcoin. So at least you've done something right buying this low. But I would think if you're still top ticking this thing and holding on to it, then you're probably not going to be able to outperform Bitcoin for the rest of this cycle. I also wanted to cover XRP because I believe this thing is still going to be one of the leaders. I still think this is the most hated coin out there. And I still think this is going to be one of the ones that has a chance at outperforming Bitcoin. Right now, it hasn't, right? Right now, it's still slightly underperforming from the cycle low, or maybe slightly overperforming now, right? Maybe just about. But I do think this thing's probably got the potential here for overperformance. I do think this thing could probably end up being significantly higher, and I have long been suggesting that this is going to be one of those chosen ones, along with the likes of the other ISO coins. I think those are going to be responsible for dragging those, those indexes up. I think that's what we're going to see, just like we had the Mag 7 drag up the indexes. I think what we're going to see here is those ISO coins be the chosen ones that drag these indexes up, and that's why I think breadth is going to remain thin. But it's going to be interesting to track, that's for sure. So if you made it this far, thank you. I got a very special treat for you coming up now. Other than that, I wish you all a fantastic weekend. A deep dive tomorrow as always, and level 3 members section. We got some new videos and new profits to talk about. Also, as I said, use that code CAMEL50 to get access to the Slice live stream today at 1 o'clock, plus all the other content on Slice. And if anyone wants the indicator, there's a very limited time now to lock in this discount for life before we double the prices on the update launch. Other than that, love you all. Have a fantastic weekend. Until next time, cheers. Bye.
Au contraire, Tuka. Just a little bit of manifesting with the mystical forces of music. You'd be amazed at how effective intention is. And summoning the banana is one of the most powerful rituals in all of recorded history. Check this out.
There is a little thing I see. Me call it global liquidity. Big money printer coming soon. Me bags are packed and we are going to the moon. Me just a humble journeyman. Me real vision 2020. I'm the man with a plan. Me manifest the market singing a song. Call me irresponsible, I'm bidding max long. Me gwan summon the banana all on my own. Me gwan summon the banana zone. Me gwan summon the banana with a song. Me gwan summon the banana, so I'm bidding max long.
Go on, Tuka. Freestyle a bit. Don't be shy. Summon the banana with me, brother.
Okay. I'll try.
Me gwan summon the banana.
Murphy's Law.
Me gwan summon the banana.
Exponential.
Me gwan summon the banana.
Network effect.
Me gwan summon the banana.
Banana.
Summon the banana to the banana zone. Trust me, bro. Banana zone. Banana zone.